what we do know is that 12 rockets that were fired into Erbil, which is the capital of the Kurdistan region of Iraq, and no casualties were inflicted, not even any serious injuries. As for what was targeted, it's a bit less clear. We're hearing that some of those rockets may have fallen near the U.S. consulate in the city. We're hearing rumors of Israeli training facilities, Mossad facilities, and so forth. So it's not clear exactly what was targeted. Was this revenge for the two soldiers, Iranian soldiers who were killed in Damascus? Was it revenge for Qasem Soleimani, because we're hearing that the rockets were fired at exactly the hour to the minute that Soleimani was taken out by U.S. forces. So what exactly was the purpose? It's not clear, and what exactly was damaged there, although we know that there weren't any serious injuries. But we do know for sure that the rockets were actually fired from Iranian territory and not, for instance, from the Iranian militias inside Iraq, which is something that we've seen in the past, that those Iranian militia, the Shia, Iranian-backed Shia militant groups in Iraq firing, for instance, on the U.S. embassy in Baghdad. We saw that in the past. That's probably not the case here, also because people were able to see from which direction the rockets were coming from Iran, basically based on all the analysis. And Muqtada al-Sadr, who's the leader of those Shia groups in Iran, at least the ones that are not backed, Shia groups in Iraq, at least the ones that are not backed by Iran, and he came out and condemned this attack, saying this is not something that we would do or other groups inside Iraq would do. This is from Iran, and we're not happy about it. So certainly 12 ballistic missiles, that's a pretty serious development. We don't see that many missiles being fired inside Iraq. Usually we're talking about several drones or several smaller missiles, and we'll see how the response will be to that.
Yeah, some of the outstanding points you mentioned here, Iran essentially saying, yes, these missiles were fired from Iran at these targets here, that alone standing out. But the U.S. not really issuing any formal response yet, or anything on the ground as far as we know yet?
Right, just a condemnation from the United States. But again, if U.S. personnel were injured, that would be a whole different ball game. But usually when these attacks take place, the attackers are careful not to harm the U.S. soldiers in order not to blow up something into something bigger. Even rumors, as it was 2 years ago when they fired, and also now that it's actually coordinated with the U.S. forces to make sure that they're not injuring any of the U.S. personnel there.
I want to get the inescapable Israeli angle into this. Tehran, or at least media sources there, saying this was targeting Israeli facilities, in fact, there. How's the Israeli defense establishment looking at the now still ongoing threat of these ballistic missile strikes, but also what's the take on the reports of activity near Erbil?
First of all, regarding an Israeli official response, I assume we will not hear any, because simply Israel will never officially say, yes, we are active in Iraq. Yes, this is the Kurdish part of Iraq, and we know that Israeli and Kurdish officials do have ties, but Israel cannot come and say, yes, we're active in Iraq. Therefore, I do not expect to hear an Israeli official, and if it is, it will be a complete denial. Would it be very surprising to see Mossad operating in northern Iraq in the Kurdish areas, considering the better ties that Israel has with the Kurds, and especially the Iraqi Kurds? Probably not very surprising. And we know that Iran over the past week has sort of put itself in the corner. As Alec mentioned, 2 of its Revolutionary Guards officers were killed last week in Syria, and Iran said loud and clear, we will revenge. With Iran being so straightforward, first about the fact that they will revenge, and second about taking responsibility on state media about this attack and saying we have targeted secret Israeli sites. This may be the revenge they were seeking. They put themselves in the corner in which they needed to present some kind of a revenge, and this could possibly be it.
So this being revenge on an alleged Israeli strike in northern Iraq. Any threats of cross-border attacks, actually strikes on Israel, whether from Hezbollah or Iran? What's the assessment of the risk of that right now?
All the time. The alert is very high, and on Saturday afternoon there was even an incident in which a foreign object, a suspected suspected foreign object was seen in the skies over northern Israel. So the alert is up there all the time. Let's remember, Iranian proxies are all over the area. From Lebanon, it's Hezbollah. From Syria, many Iranian proxies operating there. And yes, the assessment is that this revenge could come at any arena. If this is what we see as the revenge, the fact that missiles are fired at sites maybe in northern Iraq, then there could be a sigh of relief here because the incident is over. But is it over? We do not know. And just like Israel knows very well about Iranian entrenchment in the area, we can assume that the Iranians are well aware of the Israeli entrenchment in their neighborhood.